Hi everyone, welcome back to the Programming Fields. I'm your host Umesh, and in today's video, we are going to build something that every Laravel plus Livewire application needs, a reusable table component. If you have ever worked on admin panels with different listing functionalities, you know the pain. We keep writing the same listing logic everywhere, including pagination, sorting, searching, actions over and over again. So in this video, I will show you how to build a powerful, reusable Livewire table component in Laravel 12 that we will later use for any types of listing. And by the end of this video, you will have a clean and flexible component where you can simply pass columns, a model class, and a few options, and boom, you have got a full table ready to go. So let's jump right into it. And for this, I'm going to start with a fresh Laravel 12 plus Livewire starter kit project. So I will quickly jump to the terminal and I will install Laravel 12 with Livewire starter kit. So I will type Laravel new and I will provide application name as roles permissions app. And for the starter kit, I will select Livewire and I will go with the default authentication provider. And I don't want to use Laravel Vault. And for the testing framework, I will go with Paste. Now this is creating Laravel 12 project with Livewire starter kit. And further this is installing PHP Paste. And we will execute npm run install and npm run build so that this will create node modules for this. And yes, the project has been created. Now let's navigate inside this projects folder. And I will open this in the VS Code editor. Now I will navigate back to the terminal and I will link this project folder to wallet's path. So I will type wallet link and wallet park command. And further for running the project, I will type composer run dev command. Now I will navigate to the browser and in the new tab, I will access the application. And we will have the URL as roles permissions app.test. Yes, now we are able to access the application. Now let's register an user quickly. So I'll click on register option and I will provide the username, email address and password. I will confirm it and I will click on create account. Yes, so one of the user has been registered in this application, and firstly I will change this theme to light. So in the appearance, I will set this to light. This is done. Now in the next step, I will create one common component for creating a table. Okay, so I will jump to the terminal again and I will duplicate this terminal tab. Next I will type PHP artisan Livewire make, and I will create one directory first, which will be common. And inside this common, I will create one component, which will be custom table. Let's hit enter. And this has created one component, which is custom table inside common directory. Now let's check out to the project folder and let's start designing this component. So inside the resources, views, Livewire, common, here we have this custom table blade. Now in order to link this custom table, I will create one more component which will be for users management listing. So I will stay ahead to the terminal again and I will create one more component, make users, and this will be listing. Now I will link this user listing in the sidebar. So I will navigate to the sidebar component. And here after this home tab, I will just duplicate this tab and I will give the name as users. This will be route users, and in the icon, I will give users. Now respective to this, I will create one route in the web.php. So inside the routes web.php, inside the auth middleware, after this appearance, I will create users route. So this will be type of get request and I will give the endpoint name as users, and this will call the listing component which is created inside users directory. So let's give listing class, and let's specify route name as /users. So inside this Livewire, we have this users. Inside this, we have this listing component. So what I want, I will create one custom table layout, and that I will design it inside this custom table blade. And I will call this component inside this users listing. And from here, I will pass a few dynamic parameters, which will be like columns and data alongside the pagination things. So let's start from this user listing component. So inside user listing class, inside app, Livewire, users, listing. Firstly, I will create column inside this. So I will define one public properties as public $table columns, and I will define one array. Now inside this array, we have to specify a few columns that we want to display in the table header. So let's create one array, and inside this, firstly, I will define a key as label, and for the first label, I want to display index only. Next, inside this, I will specify a field which will be type that will differentiate the type of the column, which is like this is field which should be rendered from the database, or it is type of date, or it is type of index or action columns. So for the first column, for index, I will give name as index, and based on this given type, I will add conditions in the custom table component, so that I will show you later. And this is field like ID. If index is not there, then we can specify as ID. I will duplicate this column, and in the next column, I will set the username, type of field, and the field will be like name, which will be coming from the database. That means migration. So if we'll check out the default users table migration, inside database migrations, users table, we have the name field, and this name field will be mapped from this column, which is field name. Next, I will set this to email, and the field will be email. And next column, I will add for created at, which will be type of date, and in the field, I will map it with created at column. And lastly, I will add actions column, so that we will be able to see how we can render HTML. So this will be label, actions, type will be actions, and further I will create one more array inside this, because there can be more than one action columns. So now inside this action columns, I will create one more array, and the first action will be just like view. We can give icon as well, because Laravel 12 plus Livewire starter kit uses Flux component. So we can give icon name like I. We can set the color on this like sky. Okay. Now I will copy this column. I will add it for edit, and for edit, this will be pencil icon, and I will change this color to blue. And lastly, we will have delete. This will be trash, and color will be red. So this is a common columns that we are going to use for users listing. We can adjust it according to our need. Okay. So this public property, we can access it directly inside the view, which is listing. All right. Inside this users listing. So I will call that custom table component from Livewire common dot custom table, just like this. And I will navigate to this custom table, and here, firstly, I will just give one text just in order to check, are we able to call this component? table listing. Now I will navigate to the browser. I will refresh it and we have this users menu added. If we'll click on this, yeah, we are able to call that table listing component inside this users listing. Now let's quickly design the table column. So what I will do inside this listing component here, I will pass props as columns because we have already defined the public property of array for this table headers, right? So we can pass this as a props here as columns, $table columns. And also I will give headline just before this table component, so that I will call it from settings, this one. So I will navigate to the settings component. Here we have this profile blade. Inside this we have this partial settings heading. I will copy this and I will add it inside this listing. I will change this to users management, manage users from here. Now if we'll navigate to the browser and if we'll click on users, yes, we have this header and further we have this table listing. Now let's quickly design this table layout here. So let's navigate to this custom table and I will remove this headline. Now inside this div, I will create one class and will provide the class name like overflow x, so that we will have a scroll bar in the table. I will set this to border rounded XL and shadow MD. Now inside this div, I will create table component and inside this we'll pass the class as min width full table auto text SM, and by default I will set text left to all the th and td. Now inside this table I will create thead, okay, and I will give some classes inside this which will be like bg gray as 50 and text gray to 700, and I will make uppercase to all the headers, text extra small and font semi bold. Further I will give border bottom just like this. Now inside this thead I will create one tr, and inside this tr I will iterate those all columns which we have passed as a parameter from this listing, which is table columns, and this we are passing as a key columns. So in this custom table class we will have to receive that in the mount method. So let's navigate to this common custom table class, and firstly I will create one mount function, public function mount, so that we will be able to receive the props here. So let's receive array type of columns, and this name should be same that we are passing here as a props columns, and this is columns. Now after capturing this, I will assign this to a public property which will be public array $columns and initialize it with empty array. Now inside this mount function, I will assign this parameter to this public property. So this will be $this columns is equals to columns. Now we will be able to use these columns inside this view custom table. So I will render columns as column, and next inside this for each loop I will create table header which will be th, and inside this th I will render the columns. So we have column, and if we'll check the array inside this listing class, we have key as label that we want to render. So I will render the label here which is inside array. Now if we'll check out to the browser and if we'll refresh, yes, all the columns name are rendered, and here we will have to pass some classes in order to give some space between these columns. So I will pass class as padding 4. Now if we'll check, so the table header has been rendered. Now we will have to render the data alongside these columns. So for rendering the data, firstly we'll have to create some data inside the users table. So I will insert that using factory. So I will type PHP artisan tinker and I will pass the model name as user : factory, and inside this factory further I will call count function and I will give the count as 100 as of now, and I will call the create function. If I will hit enter, and this has created 100 users using factory in the users table. So now we can list these all users here. Okay. So for that, let's navigate to the users listing component here. And from here, I will pass the model instance of user as a props to that custom table component. So just after this table header, I will create one more public property as model class. And here we have user model and I will provide this class instance. I will import this model from app models user. And now we can access this public property directly in this users listing. So after this columns, I will pass one more props as model class, just like this. And in the double quotes, I will pass the model class variable. Let me dock this sidebar. This is our common table component. Okay. Now let's navigate to this custom table class again. And here we will have to receive that props. So in the next parameter, we will receive model class. Here while receiving the props, you will have to make sure if you are passing the props name just like model dash class, while receiving it, you will have to receive it in camel case. Okay. Because this dash won't be accepted directly. This will be replaced from camel case later. So that's why we have received here as model class. Again, we will have to define this as a public property, public $model class, so that we can access this here. And I will assign this to $this model class as model class. Now based on this model class, I will create one property just like public function rows, because we have to iterate the table data here in the tbody, right? So for accessing that, we have to create a common property so that it can be accessible for every table components. Let's say if I will keep it same like users for the user, then that won't be meaningful for other listing components. So here in the tbody, for iterating the data, we have to keep common property. So I will give a name like row because we are iterating the table data in the rows. So in the function, I will give the property name like get rows property. So this is Livewire naming convention. If you have given the get rows property, we can access the row variable here. All right. Now inside this rows property, I will query that model instance, which is model class. Okay. And I will paginate that with 10. And I will return this just like this. Now in this custom table, in the tbody, here I will use for else loop. And we can access $this rows as $row because we have defined this get rows property here in the class. So this public property is directly accessible inside this. Now inside this for else loop, I will create tr because based on the data, we have to create number of rows. Now inside this tr, again, I will give some classes in order to style that. So firstly, let's add hover bg gray 50 and transition and further I will give border top. Now inside this tr, we have to create the td, right? And that td will be matched based on the columns. So let's say in the users module, we have total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, right? So this should create 5 td. So while rendering the data, we will have to render the columns again inside this tier. And based on the columns loop, we will match the row data. So let's create one more loop as for each, which will be columns as column again. So this is for table row, and this is going for table column, which will be td, right? Now inside this for each, I will create td and I will give the same class as padding 4 so that we will have same space in the table header and in the table body. All right. Now here in this td, we have to render the data. So inside the columns, we have one key as field, right? This field. So in the field, we have given the value as name, email, which is basically specifying the column name which is added inside the database table. Okay. So for example, if we'll put dump and die $this rows here, and if we'll navigate to the browser and if we'll refresh it, and if we'll zoom in inside the items, because we have paginated the record, we have 10 arrays, and here in the first array, we have the field as name, email. For the next array, we have this name and email. So this is matching with this column field, which is defined in the header, so that it will be easier to map the columns with the table row. Now let's proceed with this. So inside this td, I will use Laravel data get function. So this function will be helpful to get the data from the array, and we will have to pass the data, which is row. So in the first parameter, we have to pass the array data from which we want to extract the value. And next, in the second parameter, we have to pass the column name that we want to extract from that array. So we have column field, right? Which is defined here, field. So this function will return the value by matching the columns. Let's save it. And if we'll navigate to the browser and if we'll refresh it, and firstly, let's remove dump and die from here. And if we'll refresh again, this said undefined array key field, because for every column, we don't have the field property, especially for the actions. So we will have to put condition here, because in the action column, we won't have the field which will be rendering from the database. So for that, let's add switch case, because we will have to put multiple if conditions. So instead of using multiple if else condition for handling different cases, better to use switch case statement. So I will use switch, and inside this switch, I will pass column type. That's why we have defined type in every column. Okay. So let's pass column type here. Now in the case, we have to check if case is type of field, then we have to get data in this format, right? And for this td, I will move it just before this switch case so that it will be common td, and I will cut this data get, and firstly I will check if case is field, then we have to get it from database. Now if we'll check out to the browser and if we'll refresh it again, yes, for the field type, all the values are rendered, which is name and email, which is coming from the database. But for other columns like created at, which is type of date, actions is type of action, and this is index, these are not matching. So we have to put conditions further. So this is first field type. Next, I will create one more case, which will be type of date. So for the date, here I will render the date directly. Alright, now if we refresh, here this date is rendered. So if you want to format this date like YMD or diff for humans, then we can pass that props here in this action columns. That's why I have created separate case for this date field, and that I will show you how we can format the date here. Now let's render other columns as well. So next we have index field. So I will use case if it is index. This is break statement. Then I will use loop iteration. Okay. But here we have two loops. If we'll check, we have this parent loop. This is rendering for table row and this is for columns. So here while iterating the index, we have to get it from parent loop, which is coming from database. So I will be using $loop parent iteration, just like this. Otherwise, by default, this will be taking it from nearest loop, which is columns. Now if we'll check out to the browser and if we'll refresh, the index column has been rendered now. Now let's render the actions column. So for the actions column, we have these buttons, right? So let's render these buttons here, and I will create one more case as actions. This will be case actions. So for the actions, we have to render the button. So I will create one div because I need those buttons in a single row. So let's give some class as flex, justify, center, and among the buttons, I will set gap as 1. Now inside this div, we have to iterate the buttons because we have another actions array defined here. So let's iterate these all using for each loop again. For each column action, actions as action, right? And here I will use flux button component, and in between this button, I will render that button text, which is action label. Let me check this. Yeah, label. Now if we'll navigate to the browser and if we'll refresh, yes, we have all the buttons rendered. Now alongside this label, we have to apply the classes and icons as well. So if we'll check out the another property, we have the icon and color. So instead of label, I will directly pass the icon here, which will be icon, and this I will render it from action icon, just like this, right? Now if we'll check out, yes, all these icons have been rendered here. Now let's pass the color property as well. So this color will be coming from action color, and also for applying the color property, we have to pass the variant of the button. So I will set that variant dynamically, variant. So let's define one more property as variant here, and this variant will be primary. Okay, let's copy this and replicate it for others. Now if we'll navigate to the browser and if we'll refresh, yes, we have all the buttons rendered in the proper color format. And let me resize the zoom. Now we will set some other classes on these buttons so that we will have cursor pointer over there. So inside this listing, for every buttons, we need cursor pointer. So better, I will add it directly here, just like class, and this will be cursor pointer. Optionally, if you want to pass any other classes, then that we can capture it here, just like class. If it is there, then okay, else it will be empty. And if we'll scroll to top, and I will change this min width full to width full, so that we will have this table in the full width, just like this. And let's set the width property to this actions column so that this will be aligned according to these buttons. So let's navigate to the code editor again. And in this users listing, here for the main action columns, I will add class property and I will set this to text center and I will give width to 40 because all the columns are rendered in the left alignment, but for the actions column, I want this to be rendered in the centered alignment. So let's capture this class and apply it here dynamically for the columns. So after this padding 4, I will capture column class here. If it is there, then okay, else it will be empty. Now if we'll refresh this listing, yes, we have this actions column rendered in the centered alignment. Now we have to format the date property here because this is database format, right? And if you want to format it according to your need, then I will pass the dynamic property here for the date field. So I will pass one more property as format. And as of now, I will set the format as diff for humans. Okay. And also I will give one class as white space no wrap so that if date length will be increased, it won't break into the next line. Now let's save and let's navigate to this custom table component. And here for the date field, currently I have extracted it using data get function. So for that I will use one if condition. If we have column format, if format is there and column format is equals to diff for humans, right? And I will use ndif here because we can set different format just like diff for humans, or we can set ymd, right? So according to this, we will have to handle it here. So if it is diff for humans, here after getting the data, I will apply the format property here. So I will be using null safe operator just like this, and I will apply diff for humans as a function just like this. Now if we'll navigate to the browser and if we'll refresh, yes, now we have date format applied here as diff for humans. Same thing, if you want to apply ymd format, you will have to pass that value from here and that will be captured as a callback function. So that I will cover it later. Okay. Now in the next step, we have to apply pagination here in this table because we have total 100 users created in the users table. But now after applying the pagination, we are able to see total 10 users record. So let's apply pagination here. So for applying the pagination, again, we will have to pass the dynamic parameters from this main listing component, which is users. So I will create a few more properties here, just like public per page, right? So I will specify int per page and I will set this to 10. Also, we can set the order by property and sorting order. So let's add order by key. That means from which column you want to apply sorting. So as of now, I want to apply sorting based on the name. Okay, so I will set this name and sorting order will be like ascending or descending. So let's define sort order as well. This will be type of string sort order and this will be like ascending, or we can set this to descending. Okay. Now let's pass these all props here in this custom table component. So after this model class, let's pass per page, which will be per page. And further we have order by key. So this will be colon order by key. And we have order by key. Further we have this sort order. So this will be sort order. Okay. Now let's capture these all props in this custom table component. So after this model class, let's receive per page. So let's capture per page in this format. Further, we have order by key, dollar order by key, and sort order. Okay, this will be sort order. And here we can initialize it with 10. That means if this per page is not passed as a parameter. And also for this order by key, by default, I will set this to ID. And this sort order, this will be like descending. Now let's define this public variable here as public $per page and initialize it with 10. Next we have order by key. So this will be a string order by key with ID. And also we have public string sort order, which will be descending by default. Now let's assign these public properties here. $this per page is equals to $per page. Next we have order by key is order by key, and sort by, okay, which is sort order. Now we will apply these all properties here in this model query. So I will apply order by function, and in this order by function I will pass this order by key. This is order by key, and the value will be this sort order, either ascending or descending. Next, for paginating the record, I will pass this dynamic per page record. Okay, so every parameters are dynamic here. Now let's navigate to this custom table, and just after this table I will apply pagination. So for applying the pagination, I will use Livewire trait, which is with table pagination. Use with pagination. Now let's define the pagination here. So for creating the pagination, firstly we'll check if row has, which will be rows, has pages, then this will have pagination. Now inside this if condition, I will create div, and let's set classes like padding 4, border, top, and I will give background gray as 50. And inside this div, I will call $this rows links function. Okay, now let's check out to the browser, and if we'll refresh, yes, we have pagination applied of 10. If we'll navigate to the next page, yes, we are able to navigate between the pages. If we'll reduce this to 5, so I will set this from this users component listing. Let me just clear this query parameters. Yes, we have the pagination applied with 5. So this is working. Now for the empty block here in this custom table, I will create one tr and td, and in this td we have to pass the dynamic call span, right? So I will count the number of columns here, and let's give classes like padding 6 and text center. Now inside this I will use flux text component, and will pass flex and items center classes with justify center and text red as 500, and I will add message as no data found. Also we can add flux icon. So for adding the icon, I will be using flux icon dot exclamation dot triangle. So if you want to check the icon, you can navigate to this hero icon. Okay, this is done. and this will be self-closing. Now if we'll check out to the browser, and this said icon.triangle is not there. So let's check out hero icons. Exclamation. Okay, we have this exclamation dash triangle. Now if we'll check out to the browser and refresh, yes. And if we'll truncate the users, you will have that no data found message rendered. So now let's navigate to the code editor and let's check out what we have done here. So in this user listing component, we have called the custom table component by passing these following parameters. And these all parameters have been defined in this users listing class component. We have this table columns. We have this model instance from where we have to render the data. We have per page, order by key, sort order, and also we can define searching functionality, right? So that is up to you. You can extend it according to your need. And inside this custom table components, we have received all the props dynamically. And based on the given model instance, I have fetched data by paginating that. And further, the data has been rendered in this custom table component view. So that is our reusable Livewire table component. In the next video, we will make a complete reusable form, and further, we will use these same components for creating and managing full-fledged roles and permissions management application. And you will see how much boilerplate code we avoid by reusing this setup. If you found this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe to Programming Fields so you don't miss the upcoming episodes where we will build the full roles and permissions admin panel with Laravel 12 and Livewire starter kit. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.